Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Darius Quarles. I'm a current senior at Morehouse College, and I'm also the CEO and founder of $1 Million Scholar. This is my CGI U. $1 Million Scholar is an educational technology venture that offers an online platform to help students learn about how to be successful in the scholarship application process. I am a native of Illinois, born and raised on the south side of Chicago. I'm also an alumnus of the foster care system, which I was in for about 15 years before I transitioned on to Morehouse College. So also a first generation college student. So being here with all of you wonderful folks, and even just being in college was a big deal for me, because for a long time in my life I never thought that would happen. Before I graduated from high school, I was able to accumulate over $1.1 million in scholarship offers and awards. And today, my passion really is about galvanizing students and ensuring that they understand that they too can afford a college education, especially students from disadvantaged backgrounds. To give you a little bit about $1 Million Scholar and its updates, to date we've helped over 10,000 students through our online platform gain access to different scholarship resources, and we've also helped students gain over $950,000 in external scholarship awards, non-institutional, through our platform. And my goal is to simply break down financial barriers that keep students questioning whether they will be able to afford a college education. And I hope that all students can understand that they too are $1 million. Thank you very much.
So we have with us here today Deluca, from head of campaigns at DoSomething.org, and Anndrea, strategist at Google. And we'll be discussing together specific steps and tools that you can incorporate into your social media strategies. With no further ado, I'll let David take away, and we'll show you that in a second.
Cool, thanks. Hello, everybody. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello. You know, I always hate when people do that, but I love doing it. So it's like a weird hypocritical thing. I don't know. It's power. Anyway, so we're going to talk about how you could use social media to help the causes that you care about. And what we're going to do is we're going to kind of start with kind of a broader planning point of view, and then zero down to tactics over the course of this. So I'm the head of campaigns at DoSomething.org. How many people here are familiar with DoSomething.org? Okay, pretty good. So we're one of the largest organizations for youth and social change in the country. We have 1.5 million members, and what we do is we get teens to take action on causes that they care about. And the way we do that is through campaigns. We run 25 campaigns a year. Each is on a specific cause space, like homelessness, has one simple call to action, and can be done without money, cars, or an adult. And so my job is I oversee all of those campaigns. And each campaign involves, like all of your campaigns will, many touch points and factors for your audience. There's on-the-ground presence, there's marketing partners, there's strategic partners, and then of course, there's social media and the social platforms that you use. Now, one of the platforms that we use most, which is highly underutilized, is SMS, especially when talking with teenagers. So teenagers text over, does anybody know how many a month average? Guess. How much? 3,000 used to be, but it's higher. 5,000. 5,000 a month. They sleep with their phones, as do I. So what we do is we create campaign experiences on text messaging, and I wanted to start with a story about one of those. So recently we created a campaign called the Activist Text, and the idea of it was you sent your friends this SMS choose your own adventure game. It like texts you and you could choose little things that you do. It's like an old school choose your own adventure that shows you what it was like to be a young activist in the civil rights movement. And the idea of the game was to kind of teach about systemic inequality then and connect it to times now. And so we text message with 900,000 teens every week. So we sent this game out to all of them. And we get responses back because texting is a social platform. It's a conversation, just like Facebook. And so I get this response back. And I'm looking at it, and we get like a vaguely racist joke back from one kid, right? And then he drops off. And so we kind of talked about what we do about this. Do we ignore it? Do we say something? And then I decided to text him back, and I went, I didn't think that was funny. I could do better. And he texted back, oh yeah, prove it. And so then I texted him this. What did one buck cheek say to another? Together we can stop this shit. Spunky. I was like, I don't want to get fired. And he wrote back, LOL, oh my god, you guys are amazing. And I wrote back, thanks, but seriously, this game is really cool. Why don't you give it a shot and then tell me what you think about it? And he did. He did the whole game. So we had now a kid who wasn't interested in the subject matter, who wasn't interested in the campaign, that because of that interaction, did the whole campaign. Hopefully has a little bit more of a sophisticated knowledge about systemic injustice, but also now is one of our more engaged users. He's more likely to volunteer. So this story is kind of, I tell this story because it really is one of the best practices of building brand champions and getting people engaged. And it's been that way since the beginning of time. You meet people where they are with messaging that's relevant to them, and then you ask them to take an action. Now, one of the things that's amazing about right now, and the advantage that all of us have, is thanks to digital technology and social media, it has never been easier to galvanize people around an idea or an ideal than it is today. It also has never been cheaper. Going along with that, it's never also been more confusing, more overwhelming, and more risky, especially if you're starting something up and you have limited resources. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're going to ask like the Red Cross, what platform should the Red Cross be on? They should be on all major platforms. But if you're just starting something on your college campus, or something very small, you do not have the bandwidth to do that. So how do you make the decisions as to where to devote your relatively limited resources? And there are a series of best practices that I just want to go through that are basically standard planning practices that will help you choose the best social media strategy for you. And the first one is obvious, and it's set goals. But you want to set goals that are realistic, that are measurable, that are specific and purposeful. So for example, you don't want to, I was talking with this young woman here, a student who wants to essentially raise money for anti-sexual assault program in the Congo, right? So her final goal could be raising, like she could just say that, but she has to make a series of steps before that on campus. Her campus is not aware of the issue. So her actual realistic goal might first be somehow making people on campus understand that sexual assault in the Congo is a serious issue. So but if she wanted to set a goal for $20,000 to raise money right away, that's not something that she as an individual can do just yet. So realistic means you want to make sure the goal you set is taking into account what your resources are. Specific is also like really incredibly important. So say you want to decrease the homeless population in the town that you're from. That is a goal, but it's not a specific goal. If you say, I want to decrease the homeless population by 5% in the city that I'm from, now all of a sudden you have a mark to benchmark your progress against. Now you can see, did I get to that 5%? If I didn't get to that 5%, what tactics do I need to improve? If you're at 10%, you could be like, I'm slaying, what should I double down on? And that goes into the third point. The more specific you make your goal, the easier it is to be able to measure your goal, which is one of the key factors of success on anything, especially social media. And then the final one is purposeful. When you set your goal for your initiative, is it actually important? I hear a lot of, I need to get X amount of likes on Facebook from people. And why? Well, what does that do? Now, it can do something. One of the advantages of getting people on Facebook is you have the ability to message them multiple times. Like, that's one of the key values of a like, continued engagement. But what are you going to do with that? Do you actually need that ability? So make sure that your goal is purposeful as well. Does that make sense in terms of goal setting? So the first thing you want to do is set your goals. The next thing you want to do is think about who you're talking to and set your audience. So now that you have your goals, who do you need to talk to get to that goal? So if you decide it's a 16-year-old boy, then you know, like there's this whole thing in marketing land, I like to call it, where the language is, where are all the boys? Where are all the boys? Because boys are notoriously difficult in that they switch across a lot of different markets and they do a lot of hidden viewing, but they are on YouTube. And so if you want to engage a 16-year-old boy, you know, you could go to YouTube. If you're looking for like a mid-30s female who's white, then Pinterest might be where you want to go. That is the demographic of Pinterest. It's the largest segment of Pinterest. Whereas Instagram. Does anybody know what the largest demographic segment of Instagram is? Or who, I'm sorry, who actually, wait, what, African American. The biggest percentage, it's the only social network where African Americans over-index for Instagram in that social network, and also Hispanic and Latino population as well. So like, you want to define who you're talking to, but when defining your target audience, you want to have a couple of checks. You want to make sure, A, that you could reach them with your resources. So if you want to help the homeless population, again, to use that example, say you want to get them into permanent housing, how do you know, can you actually reach them? Should that be your audience? Or should your audience be the workers at the homeless shelters? Or should your audience be somebody in the state government? Who can you reach with the resources you have available? The other thing people forget is you have to talk to somebody on social media who's going to be interested in what you have to say. One of the hardest things to do from a communication strategy standpoint is move people from something that they won't ever care about to caring about. It is just a gigantic waste of resources. So you want to make sure that who you're choosing to focus on is primed to care about your message. They might not know it yet. They might not know that, oh, child abuse is something I really care about, but they should have something about their value system that when you talk to them about it will connect with them. And then finally, that road is just big enough to reach your goal. The thing here is, especially when you're small, like, think, you don't want to target boys. Because if I was saying I want to hit boys, where would I go on social media? Like, what would I do if I wanted to hit boys? What are some tactics? What's the first one? Sports. What else?
Video games.
Women, video games. Okay, those are three entirely different strategies, right? But if you want to hit boys who are interested in video games, okay, now maybe you have a partnership with Machinima. Or if you want to hit boys who play video games that are role-playing games or massive multiplayer online games, now all of a sudden you have a much smaller field. So when you're thinking about the audience that you want to hit on social media, you want to try and shrink it as little as possible to still make your goals. And then the final thing is you want to know your assets. So I was waiting for one. If you're into animal welfare, if that's the issue that you care about, and you somehow have access to tons of pictures of elephants hugging zookeepers, then you should get your ass on Facebook, because this kills on Facebook. But if you're into animal welfare and you have access to thought leadership in the field, then maybe you want to do a Twitter website strategy where you could become a platform for thought leadership. So like, these are the three things you want to think about before really diving into your strategy. And I just put, there's like tons, and I don't know what value mine is yet, but it's certainly interesting. It's cool. I have an Android phone, so I'm just bitter right now. I can't play around with it. So you have to know your goals, you want to know who you're talking to, and then you want to be able to know what you have to offer. That's how you could start making these decisions. So I have a lot of emotional video content because I'm friends with documentary filmmakers and I want to reach young teenagers. Maybe you have a YouTube strategy, right? I want to raise funding, but I'm from 35-year-old women. Well, they're on Pinterest, but I don't know. Pinterest, who's raising money off Pinterest? Maybe I should go to Facebook. These are the things that you got to think through. And then the final thing, before I set it off, is once you have all of that, you want to set your metrics for your social media strategy. And you can think of these as direct and indirect. Like, direct is what you literally want to accomplish, right? I want to raise X amount of money. I do something as a membership organization. We want to acquire X amount of members this year. But you also want to set metrics that are indicators for that main goal. So for website conversion, we look at click-through from Facebook, because it tells us how many people our posts from our Facebook page are sending to our website. We look at conversion percentage on site, so that means people who fill out our membership form on the website. Is it 10%, is it 50%, is it 40%? We look at those, we track those metrics weekly for every single campaign we're running to see how is it doing, is social media leading to conversion, and if not, then we devise new strategies. And you want to be careful and be very specific about this, because what you measure is what you do. When you set metrics, you're setting your priority. It is what you will focus on. So like, make sure that you're constantly looking at them and changing them if needed. And so that's kind of the top level planning stuff. And I'm going to throw it over to Anndrea, who is going to talk about it.
Hi everyone, my name is Anndrea and I am strategist at Google, working on our AdWords sales team. How I got here today is that one of my 20% projects at Google is to work on the Google Online Marketing Challenge. And so with that program, we give student teams around the world $250 to use AdWords to market a local business. And there's also a social media component that's involved with it. The winners get to visit Google headquarters in Mountain View, and if they're not necessarily the global winner, they get to go to a local office in London, Singapore. There's been a couple other places. So I'm here to talk about some of the different platforms and how you can use them for your initiatives. Before we get started, I just want to go back a little bit. Why do we use social media? Anyone?
Because it lets us find people that have very similar interests. I mean, at least that's why I use it. There are people that have similar interests in life.
All right. Anyone else? To share? It's cheap. Yes, that's true. That's true. So we use social media for engagement, right? So not only are we putting content out there, but we want to be engaged with other users. So similar interests, sharing, also cheap for marketing. So that's going to be very, very important for you all as you use social media to enhance your commitments and your initiatives that you guys are running. Okay, so keep that in mind, engagement. Okay, so moving along, I'm sure you guys all know about Facebook. How many of you guys are using Facebook for your commitments right now? Yeah, pretty much every hand in the room. What about Twitter? Okay, right. So I'm not going to talk about this too, because those are the two most popular ones. You guys are all using them. Great. They have billions of users on Facebook and 200 million on Twitter so far. The first one I'm going to talk about is Pinterest. So David did bring up Pinterest. So just to go over it a little bit with you guys, with Pinterest, you're literally able to pin anything on the web. You could pin an article, you can pin a picture, you can pin an icon on the website. So that's going to be important for your initiative because you're able to have users and in your audience to pin different things for you. So if you want to pin your own icon and share it with your followers, that can be repinned or liked by someone else who has a different audience. And that can be expanded across Pinterest. So earlier I was doing some research on one of the commitments, and essentially this team has an app where they allow businesses, they're partnering with 14 businesses, where instead of getting a paper receipt, you're actually, your purchase is tracked online. So how powerful would it be if you're able to pin those 14 different participating restaurants and encourage your followers to, the next time that they visit those businesses, to try out the app? Okay? So that would be very impactful and very engaging in getting those buyers involved in your initiative. So the next one I'm going to talk about is Google+. And it's not because I work at Google. So Google+ has, the same kind of features that you can do. You can do posts, you can do likes, you can post links, things like that. But one of my favorite features that I use in the product is the Hangouts on Air. So I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this, but this technology gives you the ability to broadcast a live video chat to users. So it's like you're hosting a TV show or an interview. And essentially what happens is it's automatically recorded. So if someone misses the show or misses the interview that you're doing, it gets recorded and posted to YouTube. So you can still drive users and still drive your audience to view that content at a later date. So the example that I have for you guys today is one of the commitments. This fellow is essentially running a mentoring/tutoring program. So how impactful would it be to have an interview, to interview one of the mentors and talk about how they got involved with that commitment? To interview one of the students and tell them how, and share how their involvement has improved their academics or improved their experience in school. And what can happen is that viewers can actually post live questions that you can answer on air. That is definitely engagement right there. The last one is Instagram. So I'll be honest, I am definitely in that target market to use Instagram, and I use it all the time. I Instagram a picture of Bill Clinton downstairs. So Instagram is also very powerful because you can post a picture, list a message, and then use a hashtag, just like Twitter. And if someone clicks on the hashtag, it can pull up different images from everyone who's posted pictures related to that hashtag. So this morning on the way over here, there were some students talking about their eco-fashion initiative. Now, how powerful would it be if their current buyers posted images of the bracelets or t-shirts that they were selling, and they encouraged them to use a hashtag? So their current buyers are actually promoting the product to their potential buyers. And when you click on that hashtag, you'll see every image of any bracelet, any t-shirt, any apparel item that they actually want to sell. That's another way that you can get engaged with that. So now what we're going to do, if David wants to come back up and join me, we're going to throw it to you guys for questions. We're going to do the question and answer, and then we'll have the breakout session. Okay, who wants to go first? There it is.
The venture you mentioned the second time was what's the name of that venture?
Hangout on air.
The name of the venture you mentioned.
Oh, I don't have the name. I didn't want to call out specific names for you guys, but they're here.
What are the things on social media that you guys find ineffective? Like what should we avoid?
Yeah, I mean, there are certainly best practices for each platform, but in terms of, the thing that kills you on social media, again, it's the same thing that kills you from any advertising standpoint. If you talk too much about yourself, like that destroys, so self-centeredness. If you're a brand that's always asking without giving, you can't get something unless you give something in return. So that's something I've seen kill organizations. Hypocrisy is another one as well. You have to be really careful. Like if you're a really progressive organization that then censors people on Facebook and constantly deletes comments, which I have seen as well, guess what? That's going to bite you in the ass as well. But just to point out, these are things that you would never do to people anyway if you were running a business. So I feel it's like the stuff that you avoid in one-on-one interaction is stuff that should be avoided on social media as well.
And then jumping off of what he said earlier, I'm an avid user of quite a few different social media platforms. And when I'm bombarded by a company, like even if they're resharing content of other users, so maybe it's not their own content, but they just keep retweeting or reposting from other people. It's great, yes, like you're engaged with your followers, but I don't need to see your content every 5 minutes.
Yeah. The general
because it makes me want to unfollow them. So.
Yeah. For Facebook, it's like once every 3 days is like the standard rule of thumb for a small organization. We post like 8 times a day, but we have a deeply engaged, that doesn't harm us, but you want us to be much rarer. It's great.
Next question over here.
Okay, how effective is Facebook advertising? I've heard the ratio for Facebook adverts, and did you say that you can do something?
I am, yes.
Do you remember meeting me?
I don't.
I was speaking at the program last week.
Oh my God, yes, I got that meeting. Hi.
Oh my gosh, how nice to see you.
It's good to see you. That's right, you were at our annual meeting. I was like 3 months in and like this. It's good to see you. Facebook advertising doesn't work for us. Click-through rates are low. It depends. I think Facebook advertising, for me, I would say, is how... Oh, I have a cool Facebook advertising story that did, which maybe is the best practice. Shelby Knox, who is, she works for Change.org now, or she used to, but before that she was kind of like a feminist activist. And she got a bunch of people to troll a small company that had a Facebook page by setting the target for everybody who listed employment at that Facebook page and paying for cost per click-through. So what that meant was she could spend a relatively small amount of money, but the 200 people who worked at the organization saw ads protesting the company over and over and over again. So, and then they started talking about it. So they perceived that there was this big movement against them when there wasn't, and it cost them like $70 and they changed their policy. I tried this on Tiffany and Silverstein when they did the Got Milk ad, like you were going to go crazy because when they have their periods. And like, I think it works, but I don't have any metrics to prove that. So I think when you have an incredibly focused audience that you could target using Facebook targeting, it becomes effective. If you don't, I would say it's going to be, especially at an early stage, throwing around.
I have a question because I know that on our campus we have a lot of very engaged students that are using social media, but that doesn't always apply to the faculty and administration. And I just wondered, I know this conversation is about social media, but do you do other things in addition to create connections with those audiences that are maybe not necessarily, I don't know, maybe it's donors or something like that.
Sure.
So are you asking like just at Google or just in general?
I guess in general, because I don't know a way to effectively convert those very entrenched ideas that they will never, touch social media, and I think they're missing a big opportunity to connect with their students.
I think, well, I was going to say, I think that it's very important. You can't do, just social media advertising. You do have to still have an in-person presence. So if you're able to have a low-cost event on campus and invite some of your professors and get your professors to talk to other professors and things like that, that's going to build that professor base that will support you. Because I'm sure you guys all have professors or program coordinators that you work with at your universities who love you and love your initiative. They would love to talk and share share that experience with everyone else, but if they don't have anywhere to drive people to, then that's not going to be as effective. So you still definitely need to have some kind of in-person presence.
You know where your audience is. Like, you have to be where your audience is. That's why we text on social media. It's where they are. I think that's the logic that you have to know.
Hi, actually, my name is Will. I work with Dance Now, and we actually got to do something with work recently. Very long organization. My question is, we seem to have almost reached a cliff in our click-throughs and all that. We had in about our first year on social media, we had 100 plus every so often, and now we've completely fallen off a cliff. Is that something that's normal for a newer organization? And how do you get through that? Because we use Google Analytics all the time. And I'm on there every day seeing how many pages, length, duration, where they're at. And it's slowly starting to dip off, even though we're doing the same things we were doing initially. How do you get through that, beginner's luck kind of thing?
So how are you, my question would be posed to you is, how are you continuing to engage those users? So maybe it's a little saturated. So
Okay.
what additional content are you providing to them, or what additional ways are you still keeping them involved in the initiative?
We recently relaunched created an entire website, and did a whole new blog. So we thought that would, go right back in, but we didn't see anything increase.
To answer your first one, everybody plateaus. Everybody plateaus. That is a natural thing to happen, so don't worry about that. It's do something plateaus sometimes as well.
Okay.
The right cross plateaus. The thing is, I would do is, what's the metric that's plateaued for?
Visits on our website.
Visits to site.
And then also on Facebook, on Facebook, you can see the
So engagement on
Yeah.
Facebook, likes, and stuff like that. I mean, I think tactics are always, if your analytics can't reveal it, you need to ask people who are coming to your site that you have their email to. I would start doing customer research and be like, hey, why did you come to us? Have you been to us recently? What was the last reason that you came to us? Try and dig into that stuff, and then you might start to discover your answer there. And then you can build a strategy outside of that.
Are there particular platforms that target younger kids and thinking between ages 5 and 10? And if you reach the moms through Pinterest, then obviously with the videos up on YouTube, but
I've honestly seen a lot of younger, maybe they shouldn't be on Instagram or Facebook, but they're definitely there. So if you're able to have content for them that way, that would definitely be.
yeah, I'm building an online school to teach kids emotional resilience. So I want them to be able to share the videos that they like with other kids. And I just wasn't sure what would be the best platform.
I mean, as of now, parents are still influencers of kids that young. Kids sharing is, I used to work at Nickelodeon and did work for Nick Jr., and so it's definitely a parent-focused target. So I don't know the answer to that. I can tell you, kids are on iPads and phones like crazy town now. They play, I have a 4-year-old nephew who's so good at Temple Run. I don't know how. But he doesn't tilt it. And I'm like, you gotta tilt it to get the other coin. He's like, shut up! So I think maybe there's something about an app strategy marketing through parents and then getting onto the parent's device that they get to the kids, but I'm not sure about that.
Yes. So the beauty of social media is that it's new, it's innovative, it's cutting edge, but most of the reason it's new is cutting edge. It's always changing. So my question to you guys, as working professionals in this field, is how do you guys not only keep up with the pace, but oversee and project what would happen? Are there any, what are the type of resources that you give to us to actually be more well educated and to be able to think and analyze the trends and patterns and whatnot?
I'm on TechCrunch all the time. And so TechCrunch usually posts articles of up-and-coming social media websites, different movements that major players are making in the space. That's definitely where I go for information. And then typically if I hear of something that's pretty new, honestly, I sign up for it and I kind of test it out, and then I kind of, personally judge like, is this, a good idea or not a good idea, and then just kind of keep an eye on it to see how the user base is growing. That's how I do it.
Yeah, TechCrunch, I like Mashable. Pew Internet, I don't know if you've read their research papers, but they do Pew, P-E-W, and then Internet. Pew does like a ton of research papers on demographics and just how people are engaging with social media. It's a good resource. I think it goes back to kind of what I was trying to say with the goals, is like so we've taken a long time to do something to get on Instagram because our main metric is member acquisition, and you can't do member acquisition like in terms that we could then email them, and there's no way to do that on Instagram. So if I have a follower on Instagram, I can't directly message them like on Mass. I could say @ blah, and so like that's one of the reasons why we didn't expand into that right away. We're working on it now because we have more resources to do that. So I think the question is, when a new social network comes, look at what your organizational goals are and see if you can do it effectively on that platform. If not, with limited resources, you might want to leave it.
As students transition into young working professionals, do you recommend maintaining a separate personal and professional identity on social media, or do you recommend an intersection?
That's a good question.
There's no such thing as not a professional identity on social media, I would argue, but you could try, yeah.
I personally have two profiles. Like I have two Twitter profiles. One's my professional one. One's definitely my personal one. But Instagram for me is all personal. So it's very private. I have a limited number of followers. Facebook is, I use it more professionally. Like I have coworkers on there and different things, but I'm also not as active on Facebook as I was in the past. So I think it just kind of depends. Some people do see, this is your one personality on the world, so you're very limited on, maybe you're very limited on what you can share. For me personally, I just kind of have my own strategy, I would say. Yeah,
I have specific filters I think of every time I post something, because I pretty much assume that everything I post on any social network can eventually be brought back. So there are times when I'm heavily political and I've been like, do I want to be this political? What are my future plans? I think that type of thought, even if you maintain separate profiles, is key. I mean, I was looking at when Facebook went to timeline. I looked back at like my beginning Facebook posts, and I was like, I gotta get rid of all the quoting and embarrassing lyric shit. I think I maybe had whiskey there, And it was before I had made that decision, and I don't know. I think it's just the way it is. It's not personal, it's private.
You had briefly mentioned different type of campaigns and things like that on social media, and I was wondering what type of campaigns and things of that sort you two both find effective. For example, comments such as like this post if you are XYZ, or comment if this, or certain giveaways, or simple pictures or videos. Different types of engagement on social media.
Do something as a really engaged Facebook page. The guy who runs it is really something else. And so we have like 330,000 likes, but the shares, one post got over 1 million shares, I think, at one point, and we get like up to 200,000. Million likes. We get like thousands and thousands of shares. And I think the things that I would say that I've seen work on Facebook is picture content's huge. That's why they just redesigned the timeline to focus heavily on pictures. So like if you have compelling picture content, that's there. The other thing is what we will often do that's been very successful for us is say something that we know has varying opinions on, and then ask people what they think, and then just watch it go. It's like a really good thing to do, A, because it creates conversation and engagement, But it's also like asking people questions is a good way to let them know that you care what they think. And so I think, this law just got passed. What do you guys think? Is that a good thing? And then boom, they go down. Those are two things that work for us.
I haven't heard you. What are your thoughts on LinkedIn?
I realized I didn't put that up there. I was like, LinkedIn!
For me, I love LinkedIn. I use it like professionally. To be honest, I haven't had an opportunity, I guess, to use it for like an initiative or for projects. I don't really have too much insight there. But it definitely is a strong platform. Just for me, I just kind of view it as a professional network.
Yeah, I can't say much about it. I mean, I think LinkedIn I should be paying more attention to than I am because they're very smart and they're definitely they're one of the biggest social networks out there. I guess I don't view it currently similar as a way to launch an initiative, but I do understand that they have a lot of product development that they're working on now that maybe could change that. So it certainly is worth keeping an eye on, but I can't launch it.
Being like a small organization, maybe just starting off, would you say, or would you recommend just starting on one or two social media sites, or just going all over from like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and so on?
Being a small organization, do you start on one or two? Like how much do you dive in?
I would say that I would probably focus on two. And if you're, Facebook is the largest one, right? And probably the easiest one to get going because it has so many users currently, and probably most of your target audience is on there. So I would start with Facebook, and then one of the other smaller ones that you think really hits your demographic, go with that one. That would be mine.
Can I just taking it a little bit away from social media, like as well, because I think social media is very important, but it's just one thing. I think the way you get, does everybody know that? Has everybody seen the like cliche marketing funnel thing, like awareness to da-da, like the step ladders? Like it takes a while to get people to do the action that you want them to do, right? So what you really want to do is you want a strategy overall that hits people multiple times with the same message, right? And so like, so if you're on a campus, yes, get on Facebook, but also like flyer and have an event and like make sure that you're visible in multiple ways. It's about like creating a relationship. Like if you look at Coney, white privilege, terrible, effective video, right? That's my summary of Coney. And then naked and LA. That's terrible. Sorry, I got distracted by that whole affair. So it was successful for a variety of reasons. Invisible Children had spent years building up a network of college students who shared stuff right when they got it, A. B, the video was compellingly produced. But also, like C, is it became a story. So the first time I watched the Coney video was, it got shared to me, I didn't watch it, but then somebody talked about it, and then I read an article about it. Boom, I got hit 3 times, then I watched the video. So like the key is, like, use social media as one of your tools, but hit people as many times as you can with the same message.
I think we'll take this last question, then we're going to go into breakouts where we're going to talk amongst ourselves a little bit, and our speakers will circulate and discuss to you individually and how we're going to do. But we'll take this last question.
So the big thing you guys talked about was developing your target audience. Can you talk a little bit about the tone you want your organization to set? That's kind of unique for your organization, how that whole process works.
I would say that, so you do have to set the tone for your organization, but then you also, there's different tones for different platforms, right? So with Twitter, you have to maybe be a little bit more engaging because you don't have as much space. So maybe you post a question or something like that, where with Facebook, you can have a little bit more content. So you definitely want to have a consistent message, but the tone, this is my personal opinion, but your tone is going to be the same, but it's still going to vary across different platforms just based on how users interact with those platforms.
Yeah, it's true. You have to filter your brand through each platform that you're on. It's slightly different. But that's a brand question, right? And like, it's about what do you have to offer, who's interested in that, and how do they like to be spoken to. If you're trying to convince scientists, you're going to be a little stodgier. Or doctors, like there's a reason pharmaceutical companies, when they go out and they do like all the drugs, they're not going out with like balloons and being like, hey, you know, they're very science-based, very fact-based, because their target audience is doctors. Our target audience is young people, so we work on making volunteerism and service seem fun and engaging and compelling, and like we say things, like we go out and I'll say shit at CGI U every once in a while, because I can, because that's part of like the brand, if I work for Johnson & Johnson. Which is why I don't work at Johnson & Johnson. But they're a great company if they want to be a corporate sponsor.